Thomas Bartlett, the artist behind the work that you see on the walls, who's graciously coming all the way from Regina, although he doesn't seem to be complaining about the weather too much.
No, not at all, actually.
And this is a pretty exciting show. Well, Thomas came into the gallery during our first exhibition, so back in September last year, and left a little sort of catalog of some of his work. And I came in, and Diana said, "Here, you should look at this." And I think I sort of got through a few pages of it and picked up the phone and called him because he was only going to be in town for a couple of days, and we met for coffee at Street Level Espresso down the street. And right then and there, we just hatched the plan and said, "Yep, let's book the show, let's go," because your work is incredible and it's distinctive. And Thomas will tell you more, obviously, about the work, so I'm not going to try to speak about it. But one of the things we've really experienced since we've opened this gallery is really talented artists come to you and you know right away that you've got something there, that you're looking at somebody who is working on a level intellectually and creatively that is a step above. And it's exciting when that happens, and it's very exciting for us now, sort of 6 months on, to sort of see, to watch that process go from meeting somebody, seeing their work, and bringing in our first visiting artist from out of town, which is great, which we're planning. We have many more of those planned, but it's nice to have the first one. And so I'd like you to welcome Thomas, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, I guess for starters, I'd like to thank the Vic's Gallery and Diana and Quentin for the opportunity to come to beautiful Victoria and show my work. And I guess that's the bottom line when you're a photographer or an artist. You make these things and then you want to show them to people. For many years, I've always been involved in galleries, but you shoot a lot of things and I don't see there's any point in you shoot them and you put them in the closet. I guess the main idea is you've got to show the stuff. And what we have here is transformations. It has been a bit of a transformation for me. Hello. It kind of started with the feeling that I've done this a long time, and I thought I needed to do something else with my camera. I make a living doing this, and I was trained in straight photography, which usually means in focus and a sharp image that someone can use as something. And then I thought, I got to start doing something else. I got to push the camera a little bit, and I could see back in the 90s where I took an old camera and I would put a fishing rod. I had a fishing rod crank welded to the top of it, and I put film in it, and I would take it out on the street in Regina and crank through and I'd make these interesting strips of film and have them printed, and then something started to happen, and then eventually the digital world came around, and I couldn't wait to get into the digital world, and the feedback is immediate, and I thought, okay, this is better, this is great, and then when the output in terms of the quality paper started arriving on the digital scene, then I knew that I had something. So I started to do this sort of thing. Now, it kind of started with the world moving around me. And if you look in that catalog, you'll see a couple of examples of the world in motion around me. But this is the world, these are still objects. And I'm moving around them. And they're all, what would you say, quotidian objects. They're everyday, mundane objects that look nothing like what you see. And basically, I've elevated them in status. I don't tell people what they are. I think that takes away from them. But the titles in them allude to what they are, what the situation was. So, and I think it does take away something from the viewer if I said, okay, that is. I think the beauty of these is that people look at them and they get to own a piece of it because they see what they see. And they may not see what I see, or they may see something similar to that. They'll say, oh, that looks like a landscape. I guess so. And in some cases, I frustrate people by shooting something like that, and they'll want it to be a landscape, and it's really not. Some of the influence, I guess, from the old days would be Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, who was pushing the boundaries. And you often wonder what those people would do if they had the technology we have now. This is not Photoshop trickery. This The only thing that Photoshop does is it gets it out of the camera and gets it onto paper. It's all done in the camera. What you see is what you get. There may be a bit of a level change in Photoshop. That is it. And they're printed full frame the way they should be. And it's interesting that what I've done is I've got a digital camera that is, you know, state of the art, I guess. So, you know, like most digital cameras are. But I've ended up with something that looks like abstract expressionism. But actually, it looks more like it would be what they call color field painting. Color field painting is something that came out in the 40s and 50s, 1940s and 50s. And it was a sort of a breakaway group where people were not just splashing the paint on the surface, they were soaking the canvases. And if you look at these images, it looks like, they almost look like giant blotters that soaked up the ink. And it's a beautiful marriage of actually, of paper and ink and a technique in a sense. You know, and if any questions, you want to throw a question at me, that would be great.
I have a question. Are you printing them yourself?
I'm not printing them myself. They're printed under direction.
Okay.
Yes, they're printed on a 6100 Epson printer.
Oh, okay.
Stable inks.
Yeah.
Papers is stable.
There's incredible depth.
There is incredible depth.
That comes from the actual, your image, that layering of color?
Well, if you look at them digitally, and you probably all have gone online and looked at them, looking at something digitally is almost like looking at a slide in a sense, because you've got that back, you've got more vibrancy, but when they get onto the paper, they certainly do look like paint. Most people will come and look at these and say, oh, paintings, and I have to correct them, and they have to look closer.
It looks like chalk pastel to me, really, really very good chalk pastel.
But there is a difference. There's a difference in terms, I don't think you could paint like that. There's certainly, and as a photographer, you probably know that there's detail there that you wouldn't get it with a brush. I don't think you could get. If you look at, you know, back there in the corner, the 60 lumens, you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get those highlights in painting. But you certainly get that in photography. And sometimes there's certain things I try to stay away from when I'm photographing things, because I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be a time exposure. I'm opening up I'm actually opening up a space of time in a sense. Some of these exposures will be up to 4 seconds, or I've had 6-second exposures. You know, I wouldn't be outside at night photographing the lights because I just feel it's been seen, you know, and that's, there's no. It doesn't give anybody anything it doesn't make them work enough. I love it when people come in and they have to work a bit when they're looking at something. Like, what is it? And, you know, well, how would you do that? That's a painting. Well, I love it. And I love it when they attach I've been begged by people that have bought some of these that need to tell them what it is. And I say no.
But of course she loves my hair. So she doesn't want to work workshops. So